Hello there. My name is Dr. David Frederick Amakobe. I'm a consultant with African Wood Incorporated. African Wood Incorporated is a certified international recruiter. And one of the things that certified international recruiters do is, as soon as they get in touch or get in contact with a foreign educated health professional who wants to go and work overseas, is to provide them with the code such that they can know their rights and their responsibilities, and also the rights and the responsibilities of all the people who are involved in the recruitment process. So today we are going to discuss that. We are going to discuss the health code for ethical international recruitment and employment. You need to be able to go to the Alliance for Ethical International Recruitment Practices and download your copy. We will provide a copy for you, but it's always good to check, to take from the source, so that you know that you are getting the right thing. So, in this discussion, we'll provide you a copy and we'll go section by section. The Healthcare Code for Healthcare Code for Ethical International Recruitment and Employment Practices is established and maintained by the Alliance for Ethical International Recruitment and Practices, which is a division of CGFINS International. And you know, CGFINS International is the body that is charged with the responsibility of ensuring that the qualifications obtained overseas by health professionals is equivalent to the qualifications that are required to practice in the US and Canada and Australia. So that the board, the Alliance Board of Governors that maintains this is headed by Barbara Green, but these members are from the National Association of Indian Nurses of America, the National Association of Nigerian Nurses in North America, the Philippine Nurses Association of North America, the National Council of State Boards of Nursing, the American Association, the American Organization of Nursing Leadership, the American Nurses Association, the American Society for Health Human Resources Administration, the Service Employees International Union, and the Worldwide Health Staff Solutions. So it's a body that has the interests of nurses and the interests of nursing in the US at heart. Obviously, Mukul Bakash, the director of Alliance for Ethical International Recruitment Practices, and Kelly Cook, who is the head of the program, and Peter, who is the president and executive of CGFNS, make sure that this thing comes together well. So we appreciate them. And you appreciate them for the work they do, because to be able to ensure that when you are recruited from Kisii or Kilifi and you're going to work in North Dakota, that you go there like you could have been going to work in Kakamega is a big task. But they do it very smoothly, and they ensure that all the recruiters, all the players in the sector, in the ecosystem, play to the rules. So we also expect that as you join the pipeline, that you follow the rules and you will help us maintain the rules, because the rules and requirements and the code is just as good as, is only as good as the people who practice them and who are affected by them. If an entity is not doing what it's supposed to do according to the code and you don't say anything about it, you are contributing and enabling them. So even if you are the aggrieved, your responsibility is to speak up. That's why you should know. And that's why we are talking about it now. The principles of ethical conduct. We will go section by section. We'll start by the preamble. We'll go to the code context. Then we'll start from section A, which is the foreign educated health professional rights and responsibilities. Section B, recruiter and employer accountability. Section C, freedom from discrimination and retaliation. Section D, the right to know. Section E, the right to receive a contract with fair terms and to be given informed consent. Section F, the right to move freely without coercion. Section G, the right to access justice. Section H, the right to freedom of association and collective bargaining. Section I, the right to receive support for clinical and cultural integration. Section J, respect for sending countries. And then the glossary. You can see from the beginning, all these sections cover almost all the entities that play a part in the recruitment, in the international recruitment process. And each entity has responsibilities and has rights. And for now, we will talk about this from the perspective of the foreign educated health professional, and we shall concentrate on foreign educated registered nurses because that's who we are partnering with North Coast MTC to recruit and place in the United States. So the preamble. The mission of the Alliance for Ethical International Recruitment Practices, Alliance, is to facilitate the adoption and compliance with ethical, responsible, and transparent practices with voluntary standards that aim to ensure that ethical recruitment of foreign educated professionals to the United States. The following health code for ethical international recruitment and employment practices reflects the mutual recognition of stakeholders' interests relevant to the recruitment of foreign educated professionals. It is based on acknowledgement of the rights of individuals to migrate, as well as understanding that legitimate interests and responsibilities of health professionals, source countries, and employers in the destination countries may conflict. You understand? The rights and responsibilities of health professionals, source countries, and employers in destination countries may sometimes conflict. So this code is there to mitigate those conflicts so that everybody knows where they're supposed to be. There was a first edition, but we're dealing with this edition. This edition that was is current is this year's, is March 2023, and that's the current one. That's what we're going to use in the recruitment process. The code acknowledges that the interests of multiple stakeholders conflict. Health professionals, source countries, recruiters, employers. Its target audience are the organizations that recruit and employ foreign educated nurses, third-party recruiting firms, staffing agencies, hospitals, long-term organizations. The code is formatted to address the expectations for recruitment agencies that are certified by the Alliance, with the exception of Section A, which addresses the rights and responsibilities of foreign educated professionals utilizing the recruitment services. The purpose of this code. Recruiters. Recruiters refers to those who contract with foreign educated health professionals in a source country in order to facilitate their migration to the United States and their placement in health care employment. Okay? A recruiter is that person who gets in touch with you in your source country, in this particular case Kenya or Ghana or whatever country you, or whatever African country you may have come from, and somebody contacted you, and with the purpose of ensuring that you migrate to the United States and you are placed in a healthcare employment. So you will realize that there are a lot of entities involved, but the responsibility to ensure ethical recruitment rests with the recruitment agency that contracts with entities like North Coast, like the training entities. They are in that ecosystem promising and committing to practice ethical recruitment. If a recruiter, whether it be a staffing agency or a placement agency, contracts with another entity, that entity is bound by this understanding by just working with them. So it's always important. Employers refer to those healthcare organizations that employ foreign educated nurses in the United States. Some entities provide both services, like they may be recruiters and employers at the same time. Where recruitment and employment services are shared responsibility for two or more entities, each is responsible for ensuring ethical conduct throughout the process. Okay? Say now, African Wood is responsible for placement of nurses that are recruited in Kenya through North Coast. But North Coast is also responsible for ensuring ethical recruitment practices. They must be open, they must be transparent, and they must provide what they promise they're going to provide. Just like when a nurse gets into the program and they are told the terms and conditions and they sign the contract, they are expected to abide by the contract and abide by the terms of this health code. Recruiters and employers certified by the Alliance voluntarily agree to comply with 10 guiding principles and the specific standards agreed upon by the stakeholder to advance these principles. Certification also implies full cooperation with the monitoring system developed by the Alliance body of governors and has been operating since 2009. In addition, certified recruiters and employers must comply with the law of any foreign country in which they operate, whether through a permanent office or an agency relationship or an occasional basis, and comply with the laws of the United States, including relevant employment and immigration laws. So, when you're doing international recruitment, you go through several jurisdictions, and the laws of those jurisdictions rule. You cannot operate with the laws of the United States in Kenya. The Kenyan laws operate in Kenya, and the American laws operate in the US. We must understand that we have to abide by all these regulations to be able to be compliant with the CGFNS Alliance Code. And you will see this code, this seal a lot. If you see this seal, it means that the organization is certified. So you may see this seal on the North Coast website because we are working with them. And as you saw here, when recruitment and employment services are shared responsibility of 2 or more entities, each is responsible for ensuring that ethical conduct throughout the process. So North Coast is by association to African Wood, it's responsible for the ethical conduct, so they can be able to use the seal. Okay, the biggest one, the rights and responsibilities of foreign educated health professionals, in this case, foreign educated nurses. Foreign educated health professionals shall have all the same rights and responsibilities as their U.S. counterparts and are responsible for fulfilling obligations to the recruiter and or employer. They also have the same the right to be treated and the responsibility to act ethically and professionally. This means a lot. That you have the same rights and responsibilities as your U.S. counterparts at the workplace in the U.S., the facility where you're placed. You are also expected to fulfill all obligations to the recruiter, which includes North Coast MTC. If you had any obligations with North Coast MTC, you are expected to fulfill them. That's where ethics comes in. Rights come with the responsibilities and obligations. And if you have a contract to stay with an employer a certain period of time, you are expected to abide by it. If there are terms and conditions that allow you not to stay, you are expected to abide by it. Certified employers and recruiters shall inform the foreign educated nurses of their rights, including but not limited to the following. So, the reason why this video is required viewing is for you to be able to know your rights and responsibilities. You have the right to ask questions about your employment contract and consult an attorney before you sign it. Right? The recruitment contract was put out by North Coast, and we appreciated the fact that nurses being recruited were not just signing without going home and talking about it with their families, with their lawyers, with their friends, so that they know what they're signing, what they're getting into. Because it's a serious contract. It's a commitment for you to be able to go through the process in Kenya and be able to migrate and work here, work in the United States. So you have the right to ask questions about your employment contract and the right to consult an attorney before you sign it. You have the right to have a full executed copy of the contract. No one should ask you to sign a contract and then they don't give you a copy. You have the right to be treated in a fair and legal manner in accordance with all the applicable U.S. employment laws, including anti-harassment and discrimination laws and regulations. You have the right to discuss wages and benefits with other health professionals. There is no gag order that says you cannot discuss your pay with your other, because sunshine is the best disinfectant. If people know how much money everybody is being paid, nobody can be underpaid because they are foreign. If you don't discuss it, you never know. So you are free to discuss wages and benefits with other health professionals. You have the right to remain in custody of all your immigration-related paperwork and documentation, passports, certifications, permits, visas, all official documentation. No employer, no recruiter, no entity along the way in the recruitment path is allowed to deny you custody of all your immigration-related paperwork. You should be able to move freely and you should be able to therefore have your papers. You have the right to have contract disputes resolved in the jurisdiction in which the foreign educated professional works or where the employer is headquartered. Such duties shall be specified in the contract. Meaning, you should check in the contract to see where any dispute in the resolution in the contract can be resolved. Is it at in the state where the recruiter is located, or is it where you work? It should be specified. In our contracts, we are based in Delaware, and Delaware is a very business-friendly state, so we draft our contracts to be resolved at Wilmington in court there. So take that note and make sure that you know. And if you're coming back, if you're coming to the United States for the first time, maybe you may not want to change the state because you may be placed in a facility in one state and then you move from that state and go to another. But if you are still under contract with African Wood or our associated facilities, then you will need to keep make sure that you can be able to go to court in Wilmington. You have the right to humane and professional treatment. Physical abuse or discipline, the threat of physical abuse, sexual or other harassment, verbal abuse or other forms of is prohibited. I like to repeat that very slowly, very carefully, so that you know. As a foreign educated nurse, registered nurse, coming to work in the United States, you have a right to humane and professional treatment. Physical abuse or discipline, the threat of physical abuse, sexual or other harassment, and verbal abuse or other forms of intimidation are prohibited. Nobody should be able or even think about doing that. You have the right to inform the recruiter or employer of any potential violation of this code by any agent of the recruiter without fear of penalty or retribution. You shall not be penalized for reporting potential violations to African Wood or the employer where you go, where you're placed, and nobody should penalize you for that. Okay, so that is section A, and that is a very important section for your rights and responsibilities. Now we go to section B, and no, we still haven't finished section A. You have the right, the responsibility to read all contracts completely and make a reasonable effort to ensure understanding of all provisions, including all rights and responsibilities prior to signing. You have the responsibility to enter into agreements in good faith and fulfill agreed upon contract obligations in exchange for the employer's financial investment and consideration, including credentialing support, visa sponsorship, relocation support, transition support, and employment compensation. The responsibility to be faithful and forthright with recruiters and employers about academic degrees and work experience, areas of professional expertise, and immigration history. You have the responsibility to not provide any false or misleading information or omit to provide any material information in any written or verbal communication with recruiters and employers. You have the responsibility to promptly inform the recruiter and the employer if additional cultural or clinical training is required to safely and effectively perform all employment-related responsibilities, and to disclose any factor that could impede your ability to fulfill your contractual obligations or professional responsibilities. If you need help, ask for it. That's the point. Whether cultural or clinical. Changing from one country to another is hard. Nursing is about dealing with people. If you need help with the culture or with the clinical, just talk to us. We shall provide it. We have walked this road before. We know what to do. Just speak up. You have the responsibility to reimburse the employer for expenses reasonably incurred on their behalf on your behalf in the event of early termination of an assignment or failure to commence an assignment without cause as defined by the contract. Okay, if you don't show up at work, if you show up at work or you show up and then you decide that you have another job offer, you must tell the new employer that they will need to pay a penalty to the place where to place. Basically, communicate, and be transparent. Nobody's forcing you to do anything, but everybody expects you to be ethical, to be forthright, to say exactly what you mean, and to seek what you want. You may not always get it, but at least people know your position. Don't throw curveballs to people. It becomes bad. Don't edit yourself and regret later. Just be open, be transparent, be forthright, and know that people are in this recruitment business, are expending resources on you, spending time, and they expect you to do certain things so that they can produce value. And you are in the chain also to produce value for yourself and for others. That understanding is that everybody, every entity, from the training entities, from the recruitment to the recruitment agencies, to placement agencies, to the employers, they are in this to be able to produce value for their customers so they get paid. And they are working together because their interests coincide. And when you come in, your interests should coincide with all of them. At any one time, your interests don't coincide. Be open. Talk about it. Maybe somebody can adjust, or maybe you can agree to part amicably. But don't just keep quiet and not show up. So, you have the responsibility to provide timely notice and make a good faith effort to seek resolution of disagreements or misunderstanding with recruiters and employers. You have the responsibility to sign up with only one employer or agency at a time unless released or discharged from a previous contractual obligation. You have the responsibility to comply with all laws and regulations governing credentialing, licensing, immigration, and professional practice. You need to keep your licenses live. Plain, simple, straightforward. You need to, if you had any obligations with your former employer, you need to make good on it or make arrangements to make good on it. As ethical international recruiters, we are not coming to Kenya or Ghana or any African country to take nurses who were trained on condition of them working for the government or working for their employers without them meeting the obligations. We are not here to deplete the resources of source countries. We are here as partners with them, with you, to ensure that you provide your services at the best place possible, but also that we do not leave the source countries in a bind. You have the responsibility to make reasonable effort to meet client organization expectations and represent the employer or recruiter firm in a professional manner. Okay, so we have seen your rights as a foreign educated nurse and your responsibilities. Okay, now we go to section B. The recruiter and the employer accountability. Foreign educated health professionals shall have the right to be recruited for work in the United States under a system that holds the employer accountable for providing a fair, transparent recruiting process and a work experience that aligns with the representation made. Certified employers and recruiters are acknowledge that. Just before we go where what we acknowledge is that certified recruiters will only tell you the truth as it is. We will not promise more, we will not tell you less. We will tell you as it is and promise as it is. That's our promise. When recruitment and employment services are the shared responsibility of two or more entities, each will be responsible for ensuring ethical conduct throughout the process. Like now, in our process, we have North Coast MTC recruiting in Kenya, making sure that the training is done, making sure that the CGFNS accounts are open, training is done, NCLES is taken and passed. In that process, we work together with North Coast to ensure that everything is being conducted ethically. Recruiters and employers certified by the Alliance shall be accountable under the Alliance Code for actions of their subcontractors. Okay? In this particular case, North Coast is taken as a subcontractor of African Wood Incorporated as a recruitment and placement agency in the United States. We are the recruiters. We are the ones who asked and got into agreement with North Coast that they can be able to reach out to you, prepare you, guide you until you are ready to be placed in the United States. And every time you see African Wood sitting through your classes, we're just making sure that we are telling you what you need to know, and we are not promising anything we cannot do. You are all nurses, you know, you work in hospitals, you've dealt with administrators, those people who apparently get in the way of you doing your work, clinical work. But it's important that administrators ensure that the hospital or the facility or the process is working well within the law. That's what we do. We make sure, like you see the code, recruiters and employers certified by the Alliance shall be accountable under the code for actions of their subcontractors. But we're glad North Coast is a very professional, very compliant organization, and we can endorse them. We know that they're doing a good job, and we will ensure that we continue working with them to make sure that they remain ethical, so that your process, your experience is within the law, is compliant and smooth. Painless. All employer agreements shall incorporate all rights, duties, and obligations of the parties and describe the nature of the offered employment with as much specificity as possible, including term. Remember that you must have the term of the contract. We do 2 years or 3 years. You must have the pay, okay, per hour. You must have the location and the duration of assignment as soon as the information is available. The location and duration of the assignment may come a little later, because as you prepare, as you get recruited, go through the process in North Coast, go take the exam, it's going to take between 10 to 18 months. By that time, the employment situation or the employment situation with the employer would have changed. So where we thought we would place you it could be different. You have seen how we went through the COVID pandemic. Nobody in 2019 early would forecast the pandemic. So any contract that were issued at that time and was specified to go a certain way, they didn't go that way. So this information will be available as soon as the information is known. Employment details, including location, facilities, specialty unit, work schedule, regular hourly pay that are not listed in the employment contract may be incorporated into as an assignment confirmation document that is separate from but as associated with the employment contract. That tells you that after you read the contract may be vague a little about the location, about the duration of the assignment, but the term of the contract, the base pay cannot be. So suppose we say, okay, we give you a contract at $35 an hour. That may not be the amount of money you get because you could go some other place and they're offering higher, but we cannot go lower than we promised. Instances where foreign educated health professionals arrive in the U.S. without a determined location or workplace should be rare. If such employment details are not known prior to arrival, they must be informed and given written consent. This is going to be rare. African doesn't do it. When you get into a plane at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport or Mombasa International, you will know where you're going. Material changes to the nature of the offered employment or to the agreement shall be in writing and mutually agreed. That means we cannot enter into agreement with you and then just go change the agreement. It doesn't work that way. All employment contracts shall mutually provide for a period to cure any. We provide 30 days. Okay? We provide 30 days. We provide that 30 days for you after you sign. You can go back and say, no, I signed, by the way, and I don't feel like it. Okay, good. So we give you a contract. You can go home with it, talk to your lawyer, talk to several people. After you are certified, then you sign it. When you bring it, you have 30 days to go back on it. That's okay, fine. It makes sure that when the contract firms up, you are good with it for 3 years or 2 years. All right. And there we go. Now we are freedom from discrimination and retaliation. Okay? The foreign educated health professional shall have the right to a recruitment and employment experience free of discrimination and retaliation. Certified employers and recruiters shall provide compensation for work performed by the foreign educated health professional based on performance-related criteria, including education, experience both in the U.S. and comparable experience in the source countries, tenure, level of practice, and relevant services. Compensation, length of contract, or other breaches shall not be based on national origin or gender. As soon as you reach the United States, where you came from doesn't matter. What matters is that you are here and you are like everybody else. And that your salary shall only be based on your education, on your experience, both here and abroad, your tenure, your level of practice, and relevant skills you got. The employer and the recruiter are expected to inform the foreign educated health professionals of applicable prevailing wages. You are coming out from Kenya, you don't know what the wages here. If you base your wage contract about the Kenyan salaries, you may find yourself in there is the parity too, so you cannot really base your pay on your last pay. So the recruiters and the employers are supposed to give you the prevailing rates. Once in the United States, pay the foreign educator in accordance with the visa regulations and wage hour laws in accordance with the contract. Okay? Employers are supposed to practice equitable treatment in all assignments and in all our work, free from discrimination and retaliation. Okay, we are at section D, the right to know. Foreign educated health professionals shall have the right to be informed about the recruitment process and their rights under the U.S. law in a language they understand. Fortunately, we are from Kenya, we understand English, so this is good. But if you really don't understand English and you understand Kiswahili, you should ask us. We will provide the translation. Certified employers and recruiters shall provide a copy of this code to foreign educated nurses when a contract is offered to the foreign educated health professional. As when we started this video, I told you to download the code from the Alliance for Ethical International Recruitment and Practices website, but we will attach it to your contracts too and incorporate it in the contract too, so that you cannot miss it. It's there for you. Provide sufficient opportunity for the foreign educated applicant to review contract before signing. We say that. Ensure all employment contract agreements allow 30 days from presentation of contract for the foreign educated nurse to seek counsel on the contents and provision thereof. Okay, as soon as you've been given the contract, you have 30 days. Even after you sign it, you have 30 days to look around again. Make sure that you are signing the right thing. Because what is 30 days relative to 36 months? You have 1 month, so that you can firm up and know that you're going to stay in that place for 36 months. Okay. Ensure all employment agreements provide for a period of at least 7 days after signing, during which the nurse may rescind the employment contract without penalty. 7. The code says 7, we provide 30. That's good. You have 30 days. Not use false or misleading information in any form of communication. We will not tell you rosy stories. We will tell you as it is. In recruitment advertising clearly indicate the specific occupation level for the foreign educated nurse, either RN, LPN, or nursing assistant. We do not recruit nursing assistants. We do not recruit LPNs. We only recruit registered nurses or BSNs, and include the minimum education and the, okay, here is, that's clear. You must be trained as an RN, licensed, have experience, at least 2 years experience, and yeah, either you have a diploma in nursing or you have a BSN in nursing. So if you don't have those, we may not be talking. Explain in writing the steps involved in the migration and licensing process, and keep the foreign educated applicant informed in writing about the process throughout the process and upon applicant's request. Okay? We work continuously to ensure that this is true, that you know the steps from the time you either fill a form on the website on North Coast or African Wood, or as soon as you fill on the African Wood contract, we automatically send you a letter explaining the process, and we send you a copy of this code. Just make sure that you have them. And also, when you sign into ELIM, we shall require that you go through this video and certify that you listen to it and read the code, so that when you go through the process, you know what to expect. Also, most people come and say, how long is it going to take? And we say, somewhere between 12 months, 24 months, which is all right, because there will be delays. There will be delays in you getting your transcripts, or you, first of all, signing up for CGNS, fairness, signing up for Pearson View, signing up for the set. There will be delays in you sending out the transcript to CGFNS. There will be delays in you taking the exam. There will be delays in you maybe not passing the exam for the first time. There will be delays. So we cannot tell you that this process is going to take 6 months. It's not going to work. It can't work. It's going to work. However much you try, it's not possible. So we give you 18 to 24 months, but we know maybe a few people do it in 12 months, but that's fine. But we don't want to rush you. Specify the nature of employment, either direct by household or nursing, or a staffing agency, by staffing agency. We as African Wood are not a staffing agency. We don't recruit people. We don't put them on, we don't put the applicants on our payroll. We are given orders by the facilities to go seek out nurses. We bring them and they become the employees of the facilities. Okay, so it's direct employment for us. Identify the geographical locations of the future work site at the time of recruitment, if such information is available. If third-party recruiters and staffing agencies have not yet determined the future, this should be fully and clearly disclosed to the foreign. Yeah, African Wood, we are very upfront. We cannot place you in a location or in a facility before you pass your exam. And since it takes so long, we cannot tell you where you are going to take the exam. But we can assure you that your license will be based in Delaware, and Delaware is a compact state, so you can work in a lot more states. We are at section E, the right to receive a contract with fair terms and to give informed consent. It looks simple, but most people, you may have heard stories of people going to work elsewhere and they go there, they get their contracts when they are leaving, when they are on the plane, they don't have time to read it. I would advise that you don't get involved in that kind of thing. So foreign educated health professionals shall have the right to a legal employment contract that respects their rights and the rights to give informed consent before being hired. Certified employers and recruiters shall make reasonable efforts to ensure that the contract terms, including key provisions such as term, pay, overtime, location, assignment, duration, and confidentiality, are fully explained and understood by the foreign educated health professionals. Ensure that the health professional understand which work hours count towards completion of the contract. All of them for us. Inform the RNs that they are free to consult with any attorney about any and all contractual terms before signing. Narrowly tailor confidential clauses to ensure they do not prohibit or inhibit the nurse at any time before or after arriving in the U.S. from seeking counsel after a contract from an attorney, bargaining or local labor representative. Seeking counsel shall not be construed as breach of the contract. No, you're free. Provide a copy of the fully executed employment contract to the foreign educated nurse. Their records. Provide a clear explanation of any contract changes and secure written consent whenever modifying an executed contract. When contract changes are required to accommodate and reflect changes in relevant laws and regulations, a full explanation of the changes must be provided in writing to the foreign educated health professional. Secure written consent from the foreign educated health professional to sell or transfer their contract to another agency or employer, either in the language of original contract or prior to. This is where we are very strong. We are saying upfront, we are getting into contact with you, we are training you, taking you through North Coast, and then taking you off South Africa, take exam. After you take exam is when you actually become valuable, you can be placed. At that time, we may be able to place you at a facility. But before you take the exam, we cannot place you at the facility. We cannot give you what facility is going to hire you. So that's it. We are not a staffing agency who hire people and put them on their payroll. We are a placement agency. You are working with us to place you. We are your agent. And you pay us for those services. You actually pay us even for North Coast, because North Coast provides a service to us. So we need the nurses. They have to go through North Coast. They have to go to South Africa or some other country to take the exam, and then they are available now for placement. Charge no fee for recruitment process. We do not charge a fee for recruitment. We do charge a fee for services like this training. Like we do not charge for recruitment services. We are paid by the facilities for placing nurses with them. So we don't charge for recruitment. Clearly specify in a foreign educator's health professional contract the financial responsibilities of all parties of foreign educated health professionals, recruiters, employers, in good old transportation costs from departure location to the US and to specific assignment, housing, lodging, meals, other related services. That's where a placement agency is better than a staffing agency, because a placement agency gets involved in this for you as your agent. Staffing agency, when they come stateside, they become just an employer like another. They want you to go to work. They don't want to know where you slept yesterday. Okay, let's stop at F, take a break, and we'll come back and continue from there. Welcome back. We are on section F of the Alliance for Ethical International Recruitment Practices, Health Code. Section F is the right to move freely without coercion. Foreign educated health professionals shall have the right to move freely and change employers while working in the United States without coercion. In addition to complying with all applicable U.S. labor laws and certified employer recruitment employer laws, certified employers and recruiters acknowledge that employers and recruiters shall permit the termination of contracts by foreign educated health professionals if deployment is delayed for more than 3 years from contract execution, and the foreign educated health professional reimburses the recruiter and employer for all direct recruitment costs. I'll have to pause here and notice that direct recruitment costs are due. Those are funds applied towards the conversion of the foreign educated health professionals license from their home country license to their American license. That involves all the money that may have been spent on recruitment, on preparation for NCLEX, on taking the NCLEX, on relocation, on visa. Those are our direct costs that any person wishing to relocate must pay. If the applicant paid for themselves, then they have nothing to pay. If they didn't pay and somebody else paid, either the recruiter or the employer paid, then that money is due. Breach fees, also referred to as damages, shall never be used for punitive purposes. In the contract, there is always a breach fee, meaning a fee that you pay if you should breach the contract. It's already written in there. It's something that you should read. When you are reading the contract, you should read to see how much money has been put there as breach fee. Recruiters and employers' pursuit of breach fees shall rely upon good faith and reasonableness in the limited circumstances where they are appropriate and must be prorated. I read that again clearly. Breach fees, also referred to damages, shall never be used for punitive purposes. Recruiters and employers' pursuit of breach fees should rely upon good faith and reasonableness in the limited circumstances where they are appropriate and must be prorated. Meaning, if the breach fee say that if you breach this contract, 3-year contract, you will pay $30,000. If you work for 1 year, that breach fee is prorated over the time of the contract. Meaning, if you have worked for 1 year and the breach fee was $30,000, then the breach fee automatically becomes $20,000. If you have worked for 2 years, the breach fee becomes $10,000. And this is important for you to know, so that when you are negotiating a new job, you should be transparent with your new employer that there will be a breach fee involved. Communication solves a lot of things. If you are under contract, it's always good when you are being interviewed to be able to say, I am under contract for 3 years. I have worked for 2, and there was a breach fee of $30,000. So I think when I leave, if I leave now, they will require me to pay $10,000. And therefore, when you are negotiating your pay, you should ask for a sign-on bonus of $10,000 or more, so that you have that money to be able to pay your breach fee. I am just telling you this because I like you to succeed wherever you go. I like the people, the applicant, foreign educated health professionals recruited by North Coast MTC and African Wood to be successful in whatever endeavor they go. Because at the end of the day, we are providing service to our people, to the clients, to the patients in Kenya, to the nurses, and to the patients in the US. These are all the people we swore to be able to provide a service and do no harm. So we need to be able to tell ourselves the truth. We need to be transparent. We need to be open. When you sign a contract, it means it doesn't mean that you have signed your life away. If you get a better opportunity, you can take it. But you must understand the terms under which you are going to take the new opportunity. And therefore, be able to be open about it, because figure this out. The person who is hiring you today will be in the shoes of the person you are leaving tomorrow. So they are looking at you to see how you treat the person you are leaving, and putting themselves in their shoes 1 or 2 years later and thinking you will leave them in that bind. So you need to be able to leave your current employer in a good standing, so that the new employer can be comfortable that when the time comes for you to leave, you will not leave them in a bind. So telling them up front that you have a breach fee of $10,000, $30,000 is not really harming. If they are not willing to pay your breach fee, maybe they are the wrong employer to go to. It's a red flag for you. So that's all I want to take on that one. In order to resolve issues as expeditiously as possible, employers and recruiters should establish internal administrative processes, employee complaint policy, employee notice procedures to facilitate review of disputes regarding an alleged breach of contract by either party. So that's all right. When you go to, we place applicants directly. It's important for you to read employee handbook of your new employer. Know the complaint policy, know the employee notice procedures, so that you can remain within those as you work your way in your career. Green cards, passports, certifications, permits, visas, and other official documentation shall not be withheld from the foreign educated health professional during any stage of recruitment or employment for any cohesive purpose. Custody of such a document shall be transferred to the foreign educated health professional as soon as management of the certification, immigration, licensing process is reasonable allows. You understand that? These are your documents. You have to have custody of them unless the employer has a legal need for them. So you need to know that you need to be able to keep keep custody. Recruiters and employers shall not threaten or use immigration enforcement mechanism to exercise control over foreign educated health professional or for punitive purposes. Non-compete clauses shall be reasonable in time and scope and shall not restrict the ability to earn a living in their occupation. Africanwood and Africanwood partners will just require the contract hours per week. A week has more hours than 40. What you do with the other hours is your job. We make sure that the employers, the facilities we partner with, do not restrict our foreign educated health professionals in what they do during their private time. Other agencies may have different takes on this, so you better check your contract. Make sure that you are not contracting away all your life in the United States. You are contracting away specific hours of the day. That's important. That's why this is important, because non-compete clauses might say you shall not work for another hospital while you work for us. That's horrible, because you are a trained nurse, and nurses work in hospitals, and some hospitals will compete with others. So you may a reasonable non-compete may be if you agree to get into management. Then, of course, most organizations will not allow their management to work for the competitor. But if you are just a professional working, delivering clinical services, that shouldn't be an issue. But check your contract, make sure our contracts were sure about them. As long as you're doing clinical work, you are allowed to do clinical work. As long as you deliver the 40 hours per week for the facility, you can take overtime from them if you want. You can take another job from elsewhere if you want, as long as you always avail yourself with the hours that are required for your contract. So that's a competitive advantage we have, and you may want to stick with North Coast MTC and Africanwood Incorporated and our facilities for that reason, because we are comfortable that you will only be required to work the contract hours per week, and what you do with the rest of your hours is your problem. All right. Here we go now. We are on section G. Right to access justice. Foreign educated health professionals shall have the right to access justice for abuse and discrimination suffered under the U.S. work visa programs. Certified employers and recruiters acknowledge that foreign educated health professionals who believe they have suffered a violation of this code or U.S. law shall not be discriminated against for filing a complaint or taking legal action. Foreign educated health professionals shall have access to justice, which may include mediation, non-jury trials, jury trials, or arbitration if expressly stated and mutually agreed upon. Be wary of contracts that are just given to you and told you to sign for arbitration if you don't agree, and make sure you know who the arbitrator is, who is going to choose them, who is going to pay for them. If an employer tells you that any dispute will be mediated through arbitration, you must make sure that they are not in control of the process. Because if you have a dispute between you and them, and they are in charge of the process, you may not be able to get justice. So if there is an arbitration process, you should be able to choose an arbitrator in a location that is of your choice. So that's another thing that you should be able to look at when you are choosing staffing agencies or placement agencies. Agreements with the foreign educated health profession not include gag orders or confidential clauses that limit foreign educated health profession ability to have the contract reviewed. Don't agree to have non-disclosure agreement and disclosure agreements about your agreement. This is about you. This is what you sell. This is your competency. Nobody should be able to behave like they own you. Okay? African Wood, we act as your agent. We act as our as our partner's agent too, to make sure that we mediate in between. But we do not allow a facility to act like they own the professionals. Never work. It never happen. You can take that to the bank. So we are here to take care of your interests. We make sure that you get paid what you are worth, and you're treated like the person you are. That's a promise that African Wood gives to all these applicants. Agreements shall not in any way seek to preclude the foreign educated health professional access to counsel or the right to seek legal redress for any violation or breaches. If a clause in your contract says you can only go back to employer, no, don't do that. Don't take the first contract you have as if you want any ticket leave Kenya or leave your country, because you may be leaving the frying pan and getting into the fire. Desperation is bad. You cannot negotiate if you just need out. You need to read through. You need to know who you are dealing with. You need to look at the history. You need to know the whole person, because you are putting your faith in this agency or in this employer, and they should be able to consider you as a whole person. They should not treat you as a nurse. You are a family person. You have family. You have a life to lead. And at African Wood Incorporated, we believe that our foreign educated nurses are people with families, with beliefs, with faith, and that they come to work the whole person. We just don't say we need a nurse on the floor, and after that we do not care what happens to them. So here we go. The right to freedom of association and collective bargaining. This is Section H. Foreign educated health professionals shall have the right to form and join unions and to bargain and advocate collectively to promote their rights and interests. You cannot sign on to a contract or a facility that says you can't unionize. Remember, the facility has access to lawyers, to other professionals. They cannot tell you that you have a right to represent yourself, because you can't. They don't. Nobody of them is representing themselves. they are being represented by professionals, by lawyers, by accountants, by administrators. Imagine if you are dealing with an organization that has all these experts behind them, and you are sitting there on the chair alone. Even the capacity to think itself is hard. That's why you need to be able to be free to join a union and to bargain and advocate for yourself. It doesn't matter they're giving you $5 more. If they're giving you $5 more, that means they should have been giving you 20. Why would somebody pay you to isolate you? Think about that. If somebody is paying you to isolate you, that means they're taking advantage of you. So you have a right to the freedom of association and collective bargaining. And the certified employers and recruiters acknowledge that foreign educated health professionals shall have the right to join professional associations and unions. Don't be paid peanuts to be isolated. Like the Africans say, the animal that leaves the herd is always eaten. So if somebody is paying you to leave the herd, they are going to eat you. All right, Section I, the right to receive support for clinical and cultural integration. And this is the strength of African wood, particularly the cultural integration part. And the clinical integration we start, that's why we have North Coast MTC taking care of the clinical part, making sure that your clinical knowledge gained and your experience in Kenya is brought to the level that you can be able to practice in the United States and Canada. And then we know that medicine is not delivered in a vacuum. And you have to communicate to your patients. And the patients, the communication between you and the patient is influenced by the culture. If you do not understand their culture, and they don't understand your culture, however good a clinician you may be, that medicine won't work. So, we take it very seriously, the cultural integration part of this process. We have a course that we host at North Coast MTC for cultural integration for both the professional and their spouses and children. Remember, you're living in a country where the education system is different. You're living in a country where the health system is different. You're living in a country where the culture is different. And you are carrying yourself and your family, bringing them to a culture that is different. If you are not prepared for it, you may fail. Not because you are not a good nurse, but because you can't fit in the culture, or you are not prepared for the cultural shock. So, Section I is very important to prepare your spouse that you are the nurse, but they have to start somewhere. They have to start preparing for what they will do. Because if they are an accountant in Kenya or in Ghana or in or other country, or the source country you are coming from, they may not be able to get a job as an accountant here. So they must know what they are going to do. And the inability of your spouse to know that they will change may bring friction in the family that will make you unable to do your job as a nurse. And we get interested in that. We get interested in making sure that your spouse learns and settles and integrates in the society well. We also get interested, if you have children, to make sure that they get into the right schools. Remember, the education system is different. And also how it's structured. Remember, in Kenya, where you live does not matter where your child goes to school. Here, the school system is a feeder system. And where you choose to live determines where your child may go to school. If you choose to go to a place where houses are cheap, that means the tax collection there is low. That means the schools may not have the resources they need to be in good standing. You need that information, and that information is available from us. African Wood Incorporated ensures that you have the information upfront on cultural integration, and then we hold your hand until you settle. You get a house, you get a car. Even before you get a house, remember, when you leave Kenya or you leave Ghana and come to the United States, you will have to get the local documentation. You will have to start from Social Security, you go to your license, you get your house, you get your car, you get your insurance, and those things require somebody to hold your hand. Otherwise, it will be very difficult. You would have a job and a roof under over your head, but then the people you are with aren't settled, or the children aren't going to the right schools or haven't good schools, or you haven't even got a driving license, something like that. So that's the very important thing to consider when you are picking on a staffing or an agent for you in the United States. So here, it says the foreign educated health professionals shall have the right to receive support as they transition to living and working in the United States. Certified employers and recruiters shall make reasonable effort to ensure that the basic needs of foreign educated health professionals, safe and clean housing, access to health care, access to transportation when there is no or adequate public transportation options, are available during an initial transition period as part of the negotiated employment package. Facilitate the successful transition of foreign educated health professionals to the United States and the specific employment location by providing or assisting in the provision of orientation programs that include basic information about living and working in the United States, housing options, banking, post office, local grocery stores, restaurants. These are things that most people, when they're trying to transit to leave their home country to the host country, they don't think about. But these are the things that African Wood thinks about every day and does every day to ensure that you have you have the right housing options, you have your right banking options, you have a place to go post a letter if you still post letters, you know where to buy your food. If you have lived in Kenya continuously or living in Ghana continuously, you will not know that you buy food, you buy only specific foodstuffs from the store, because the store may have all an array of food, but you always buy a basket of food. Now, you need to know where to buy that basket of food. And it might not be in the local grocery store, or it might be in the US. It has got these mass grocery stores, it's got the big retail stores, it's got the ethnic stores. You need to know where to find your food. Because moving from one country to the other, you may find that keeping in touch with your home country food will make the transition easier. And also, we have a challenge with obesity in the United States. If you transition from Kenya to the United States and you get into the fast food, you will find that you put your children in harm's way, because if you don't put your food down and make sure that they are eating right, at the end of the day you will have obesity issues, health issues, things that you are not thinking about now and the things that we think about every day. So stay with North Coast MTC, stay with African Wood Incorporated. We'll be able to help you through your journey. encourage and facilitate healthcare institutions, agencies to provide or assist in the provision of clinical orientation to ensure appropriate delivery of care, particularly with regard to discipline or facility-specific clinical practices and procedures that may not be familiar to the foreign educated health professionals. The practice is different. The practice of hospitals or facilities is different. And these clinical practices, you must be oriented to them. The preceptors, Africa would ensure that the facilities we place our nurses as preceptors who have gone through the same process, who understand, who know the little details that may frustrate somebody that may not be known to people who practice clinical and nursing in the United States and have not practiced elsewhere. Provide or assist in the provision of sufficient training of foreign educated health professionals in cultural and linguistic matters relevant to employment location. Yeah, same I told you. The cultural and linguistic matters, I think that you need somebody who has gone through it, who knows, who understands you and understands the perspective. And Africanhood understands the African situation, and it understands the American situation. So our preceptors are good. They will guide you in your clinical side, and our trainers in cultural side will guide you and make sure that you become a success. And also, we don't forget your spouses. We don't forget your spouses. We don't forget your children. We've been there, done that. Section J, respect for sending countries. This is important. Certified international recruiters don't break the law. Certified international recruiters do not want to deplete the home country. Certified international recruiters do not want to assist the applicants to evade their responsibilities in their home country. We work with the health authorities in the home country, the training facilities, and the employers to ensure that when you leave, you are leaving them in good standing. Because if the leopard never changes its spot. If you leave your current employer in a jam, you are going to leave us in a jam. So we are not going to start that jam. We want to make sure that you are living well, so that we know that next time when you're leaving us, you will be living well. So keep that in mind. When I ask you how it's going at your workplace, and you tell me it's hard, you are not telling them what to do, you are just telling me when it's my turn, you won't tell me what to do. So, respect for sending countries. The Alliance seeks to uphold an individual's right to migrate and to acknowledge the potential harm that can be caused to sending countries by international recruitment. Employers and recruiters shall abide by all sending countries' laws and regulations related to international recruitment. If a foreign educated health professional is contractually obligated to serve their home country's health system in return for public education or scholarship provided by the home country, respect these obligations and not knowingly enable the foreign health profession to circumvent them without permission from the sending country. Where applicable, require the foreign educated health professional applicant provide evidence that such obligations have been satisfied. All right. You know that we will ask how you went to school, who paid, have you been able to settle with them? That's important to us. Because the same question will occur when we have expanded resources on you and you come here with a contract and you want to leave. So if you are leaving, if you are breaking your first contract of going to school, how are we sure you will not break our contract with us? So always take that into consideration when you are doing something else. The Alliance seeks to promote recruitment that is conducted in a manner that helps to sustain, replenish, or improve the local health services of sending countries. Certified employers and recruiters shall aspire to avoid active recruiting in those countries or areas within countries that are experiencing either a temporary health crisis during which health professionals are in their need or chronic health care professionals shortage. Establish a relationship with the Department of Human Services in a local hospital so that the training and departure process have an agreed upon time frame. Remember that. If you are working in Kakamega County Hospital, we'll make sure that when you are leaving, you just don't leave in bad shape. If you are working in Kilifi, if you are working at the Aga Khan, we'll make sure that we get in touch with them to tell them that you will be leaving so that they prepare. Just a courtesy. That's what we'll expect somebody else to do for us, so we'll do for them. Pursue health facility partnership agreements between schools of nursing and hospitals in the U.S. and source countries and hospitals. That's why we have a partnership with the North Coast MTC. They are recruiting nurses, they are training nurses, they are graduating nurses, and also they're preparing the same nurses, a few of the same nurses to come to work for us. So we are very sure that the number of nurses coming as a percentage of those who have been trained is little. And we're not taking all of them. Also, we know that when we take the experienced ones, we're creating space for the ones who are behind, who haven't been employed yet. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship. Our partnership with North Coast MTC is actually a result of this clause, that we should seek partnership with the nursing schools in the source countries so that we are guaranteed sure that we are not depleting the supply of health professionals. Much a portion of the remittances sent by recruited foreign educated health professionals and channel the funds too. That's why we're asking you to contribute to us a fund North Coast MTC is creating so that we can be able to continue. You will realize that the fees that you are paying for training at the MTC, relative to the amount of money they are being paid in the US, is quite small. So if you commit to take one child to MTC there or contribute to a fund that is educating them, that will be that you join a cohort that have been doing that, and we really appreciate that. And you will be contributing to your country as a good patriot. Okay. Offer foreign educated health professionals periodic home leave to provide technical assistance to their home communities. This option is especially appropriate where there is a critical lack of health professionals. Yeah, after you come and either on your vacation or between contracts, you can go back and provide services that make sure that the service delivery and service standards is improved just by you going there and working with your former employer will make the people who are working there improve their standard. If you can just by the power of example, just doing the right thing. So establish scholarship funds in source country schools. Yeah, we are doing that with North Coast MTC, and we'll ask you to join us to help those people. All right, we have covered from section A to J. That's been long, and I hope that as we go along, you will be answering questions so that we know that you understand this, and you will be going in this with full knowledge of what you're going to do. The glossary, active recruitment consists of proactive direct solicitation to hire candidates that were not actively seeking a new position. Okay, We do that. That's what we do. Breach of contract. A breach of contract occurs when a party who entered the contract fails to perform the promised obligations. Don't do that. Breach fee, the amount of money a party can recover when one party breaches a contract. The legal term for breach of contract is called damages. In international recruitment, this typically refers to the amount of money a recruited foreign educated health professional would pay to the recruitment agency if the foreign educated health professional were to voluntarily leave the contract without cause before the contract period ends. We told you, and that figure will be agreed for in advance, and it's prorated. Damages, the amount of money owed when one party breaches a contract. There are two types of damages. Actual damages, the amount that may be recovered by the non-breaching party directly related to the breaching party, non-performance under the contract. Example of these actual damages: the recruiting would potentially recover in good and reimburse expenses including direct or directly on behalf of incurred directly on behalf of the foreign educated health professional, or penalties required to be paid to health facilities based upon the foreign educated failure to complete the contract. You know, just like we put breach fee in your contract, the facilities put breach fees in our contracts too. So basically, we're passing that money to you. If you are the one who was supposed to perform the contract and you're not doing it, it's unfair to ask the recruiters to pay. So we make sure that you pay for it, but we also make sure that the facility that is making you breach the contract should be in a position to pay it. And everybody in the ecosystem understand this. It's only if you don't say, if you're not transparent, that it may become a problem. Liquidated damages, an amount that is determined at the time of contract formation that the breaching party will be required to pay in the event of breach, which is generally based on the estimate of the total amount that will be incurred by the recruiter for the recruitment, credentialing, visa sponsorship. Liquidated damage cannot be a penalty for breach. Okay, so you now know. These liquidated damages are actually damages. Alex, assume right now their costs of translating the license, the Kenyan license to the American license, is about $5,000. If a recruiter or a placement agency pays that money for you and decides that that money will be deducted over a period of 3 years, if you are leaving after 2 months and they ask for that money, it's not a penalty. That's not a penalty. That's cost. That's money that you should just pay up front. So you should, when you're considering breach payment, you should know that the breach fee will include both actual and liquidated damages. Liquidated damages are expenses already incurred by the recruiter or facility, and you owe them. If you had stayed, they will take it from your pay over a long period of time. You won't feel it. But if you're leaving now, they need the cash up front. Okay? Discrimination based on status as a member of a protected class. To be discriminated against on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, including pregnancy, sexual orientation or gender identification, national origin, age, disability, or medical history. No, that's not allowed. So foreign educated health professionals, of course, will be using that informed consent and ethical principle that requires permission to be granted with the knowledge of the possible benefits and the possible consequences. You know that? So that's why we're going through this process slowly, carefully, so that you know the benefits, but you also know the possible consequences. Prevailing wage. The prevailing wage rate is defined by the U.S. Department of Labor as the average wage paid to similarly employed workers in a specific occupation in the area of intended occupation. Okay, that's been long, that's been nice, but looking at this continuously, let's go back to the start. You have knowledge of what is expected of you and what is expected of the other players in the ecosystem. To summarize, we looked at the preamp, we looked at the code context, we looked at the foreign educated health professional rights and responsibilities, we looked at the recruiter and employment accountability, we looked at the freedom from discrimination and retaliation, we looked at the right to know, we looked at the right to receive a contract with fair terms and to give informed consent, we looked at the right to move freely without coercion, we looked at the right to access justice, we looked at the right to freedom of association and collective bargaining, we looked at the right to receive support for clinical and cultural integration, we looked at respect for the sending countries, and we had a look at the grocery. With that, I would like to thank you for taking time to listen to this video. Make sure that you understand the health code. Make sure that you are familiar with the Alliance for Ethical International Recruitment Practices. Make sure that you can access their website. Make sure you can check who is a certified international recruiter. Make plans and work them. Make sure that you know who you are dealing with and what they believe in. At North Coast MTC and African Wood Incorporated, we are here looking out for you. Thank you very much.